Here you can see the original split-load dual RCD plastic consumer unit. It's a Magnas brand with later CPN additions. Both budget Chinese rubbish. The fact that it's plastic makes it potentially flammable, and being this close to the ceiling could prove catastrophic. On top of that, it's really inconvenient in the case of a fault. Additionally, it has no surge protection, a must in a home with modern electronics. We decided to upgrade it to a quality Navitas metal-clad unit with RCBO and SPD protection. You can see how well it's presented here. Now we are looking at the SWA cable we have drilled into the house at an upward angle to avoid water penetrating into the cavity, and the cable is safely into the house behind the oil boiler. You can see here where we fished it in. I'm trying to show here where it enters the property behind the boiler housing, but it's a bit dark and dingy. I'm going to run it up in the corner of the wall secured with black D-line clips. It's going to enter the Navitas consumer unit in a 20mm Swa Storm Shield 20S gland. I'm using a Navitas standoff spacer, which I'm going cut into the plaster with a length of 100 by 50mm trunking above, also sunk into the plaster board to keep everything tidy. Now, I'm looking at the cables and sorting them out into groups. We've got circuits for the garage, the kitchen cooker, and the shower are all going on 32 AMP RCBOs with 6mm twin and earth cables. We also checked the rings by checking the end-to-end readings. They were all good and obviously into 0.5mm twin and earth cables, and so they will go on 32 amp RCBOs. Here you can see that we have fished the new 25mm tails into the meter cabinet. That could potentially have been a real ball breaker, but it went to plan on this occasion. The for-lighting circuits were 1mm twin and earth, so they will be put on 6 AMP RCBOs with a neat layout. The layout is going to be main switch, gap, free, RCBOs, gap, free RCBOs, to gaps, MCB. Gap, free RCBOs, to gaps, MCB, to gaps, for RCBOs, gap, MCB, SPD. After a phone call to the DNO, they left with the main fuse, and that allowed us to connect in the 25mm tails and 16mm earth. The red bit you can see is permanently energized and so potentially very dangerous, so don't be sticking your stubby little fingers in, you naughty boy. The property is fed with an underground concentric cable. This is a solid copper core, which is insulated, then covered in stranded copper or aluminum conductors. They wrap concentrically around the cable, then insulated again. The central core is the live or line conductor, and the sheath conductors are the neutral and the earth. The central solid core fits in the red part of the cutout, and the stranded outer into the solid brass neutral block on the left. As you can see, neutral block is then linked to the brass earth block. Now, I'm prepping the wall to sink in the 100 by 50mm trunking and Navitas spacer kit. I'm marking the wall and going to cut it neatly using my Milwaukee 18 volts multi-tool. It's important to get this right, or it will look like DIY Dave has been at it again. We are dropping the new Navitas consumer unit by 100mm and a crossbar about the same. This will make the unit more accessible and much more convenient in case of a fault. By sinking the trunking and the back plate into the wall, it will look much neater and not look like an afterthought. So what you think about that punk? You can see here how Lewis is in the middle of fitting the Proteus isolator and has connected the 25mm tails and 16mm main earthing conductor. After having a quick nose of how Lewis is getting on, making sure he's not electrocuting himself again. And tidying up his mess, mind your own business, I'm back to my job inside. What a mess! Oh my lord. Right now, what was I doing? Let me think. Come on, get your brain in gear. Oh yeah, the detectors. Now, where are the detectors? You can see here I fitted a new Aico heat and carbon monoxide 10-year lithium battery unit here to replace the one that has a 9-volt battery that runs out of date in April 2026. And it's only a smoke alarm with no CO right by the flipping boiler. I'm going to replace all the detectors in the house at the same time with multi-sensors, heat, and smoke. Will you look how nice that looks and more than 300 millimeter away from the light? Here is the Navitas mini consumer unit, which I'm going to fit at the front of the driveway inside the lockable box. Both consumer units are labeled up neatly using our brother printer. The main consumer unit is now fully wired up ready for testing and commissioning. What a difference between the old and the new. Worlds apart. I'll finish by showing you some still pictures I took throughout the day. You have to admit it's a first-class job and no corners were cut, using only brands we trust and love to use. Milwaukee, Navitas, CK, Aico, Vargo, Doncaster cables to mention a few. We will be back tomorrow to finish the outdoor stuff. The cabling, the Fumagalli lights, the Quintix switches, and receivers. To test everything and give the customer their certificate, stand by for part 2.